Richard Gere emerged as one of Hollywood's most recognizable romantic leads, a figure whose presence seemed to define an entire era of cinematic desire and elegance. For decades, he embodied the fantasy of effortless charm, the kind of screen presence that made audiences believe in love stories as something larger than life. Films like American Gigolo and Pretty Woman turned him into a cultural symbol, while his quiet intensity and refined demeanor set him apart from more flamboyant stars of his generation. Yet his career was never simply about fame or image. Beneath the polished exterior was a man drawn to introspection, spirituality, and a life beyond Hollywood's relentless machinery. As his fame grew, so did the tension between the public persona and the private search for meaning. He became both celebrated and elusive, a leading man who seemed slightly distant from the very industry that elevated him. Over time, that distance would shape how his career evolved, making his story less about decline and more about transformation, where stardom and personal conviction often pulled in opposite directions, redefining what it meant to be a Hollywood icon in the modern age. Early life and the formation of a restless spirit. Born in 1949 in Philadelphia and raised in Syracuse, New York, Richard Gere grew up in a working-class household shaped by discipline and quiet ambition. His father sold insurance while his mother managed the home, instilling values of stability and responsibility. Yet even as a child, he showed signs of restlessness, moving between athletics, music, and academic curiosity. At North Syracuse Central High School, he excelled as a gymnast, earning a scholarship to the University of Massachusetts, where he initially studied philosophy. This academic exposure deepened his interest in existential questions, purpose, and identity. At the same time, he explored music, teaching himself instruments and using performance as a private emotional outlet. These dual interests, physical discipline and artistic expression, created a foundation for the contradictions that would later define his career. He was neither fully grounded in conventional ambition nor completely immersed in artistic rebellion. Instead, he existed in a space between, searching for meaning beyond structure. This early tension between mind, body, and spirit would later translate into his screen presence, where restraint and emotional depth often coexisted. His upbringing did not prepare him for fame, but it shaped the thoughtful, introspective qualities that would eventually distinguish him in Hollywood. From theater dreams to the edge of discovery. During his early adulthood, Richard Gere left behind the structured path of academics and athletics to pursue acting in New York City. The transition was far from smooth. Like many aspiring performers, he faced financial instability, uncertainty, and limited opportunities. He initially found work in theater rather than film, where his presence slowly began to attract attention. One of his early notable breakthroughs came on stage in productions that showcased his ability to combine emotional subtlety with physical presence. Unlike many actors of the era who relied on theatrical exaggeration, he brought a quiet intensity that stood out. He also developed a growing interest in spiritual practice during this period, particularly Buddhism, which influenced his worldview and sense of purpose. While struggling professionally, he was also withdrawing internally from the conventional pursuit of fame. This made him an unusual figure in the entertainment world, ambitious yet detached, driven yet reflective. Casting directors began to notice his unique combination of restraint and charisma, even in minor roles. His early film appearances were modest, but they hinted at something distinctive. Rather than chasing immediate success, he seemed to be slowly building a foundation for a career defined by depth rather than visibility. Breakthrough roles and the birth of a screen legend. The late 1970s marked a turning point for Richard Gere as he transitioned from emerging actor to recognizable screen presence. His role in Days of Heaven, 1978, directed by Terrence Malick, introduced audiences to his understated, emotionally layered acting style. The film's poetic visual language and restrained performances aligned perfectly with his natural screen presence, earning him critical attention. However, it was American Gigolo, 1980, that transformed him into a global icon. As Julian Kay, a stylish escort navigating wealth, desire, and isolation, he embodied a new kind of masculinity, elegant, emotionally complex, and visually iconic. The film not only defined his image but also helped shape 1980s aesthetic culture, from fashion to cinematic tone. What made his performance compelling was not just physical appeal, but the emotional ambiguity beneath it. He was both object of desire and a figure of loneliness, reflecting deeper themes about identity and emptiness. This duality became central to his public persona. Suddenly, he was not just an actor but a cultural phenomenon, representing a shift in how leading men were portrayed in American cinema. Romantic hero and the rise of global stardom. The early 1980s solidified Richard Gere as one of Hollywood's defining romantic leads. His role in An Officer and a Gentleman, 1982, elevated him further, combining emotional vulnerability with disciplined masculinity. The film's iconic imagery and emotional arc resonated deeply with audiences, turning him into a symbol of romance and redemption. Throughout the decade, he continued to explore varied roles, balancing mainstream appeal with artistic curiosity. Films such as Breathless and The Cotton Club demonstrated his willingness to take risks, even when commercial success was uncertain. Unlike many actors who became trapped by early fame, he resisted repetition, often choosing projects that challenged his image. At the same time, his growing interest in Buddhism influenced how he approached both career and life decisions. He became known for avoiding Hollywood excess, maintaining a relatively private and reflective lifestyle. This combination of stardom and detachment created a unique public perception. He was both highly visible and emotionally distant from the machinery of celebrity. By the end of the decade, he had established himself not just as a star, but as a distinctive presence in global cinema, defined as much by restraint as by charisma. Pretty Woman and the height of cultural influence. In 1990, Richard Gere reached a new level of global fame with Pretty Woman, starring opposite Julia Roberts. The film became a defining romantic comedy of its era, transforming both actors into cultural icons. As Edward Lewis, a wealthy businessman who unexpectedly falls in love with a spirited woman, Gere delivered a performance that balanced sophistication with emotional transformation. The chemistry between the leads elevated the film beyond formula, turning it into a modern fairy tale that resonated worldwide. The success was massive, cementing his status as one of Hollywood's most bankable romantic leads. Yet even at this peak, he remained somewhat removed from the spectacle surrounding him. He did not fully embrace celebrity culture in the way many contemporaries did, instead maintaining a quiet distance from the spotlight. While Pretty Woman reinforced his image as a romantic ideal, it also began to define expectations that he would later resist. The role became both a blessing and a limitation, shaping how audiences and studios perceived him. Despite continued success throughout the 1990s, this period marked the beginning of a subtle tension between public expectation and personal direction. The 1990s, peak and artistic expansion. Throughout the 1990s, Richard Gere maintained a strong presence in Hollywood while expanding his range beyond romantic leads. Films like Primal Fear showcased his ability to handle darker, more complex material, particularly in legal and psychological dramas. His collaboration with emerging talents of the time demonstrated his adaptability and continued relevance. He also revisited romantic storytelling in Runaway Bride, reuniting with Julia Roberts and reaffirming their on-screen chemistry. At the same time, he became a fashion and cultural reference point, often associated with elegance and timeless masculinity. His image influenced menswear trends and reinforced his status as a global style icon. However, this era was also marked by personal transitions, including the end of his marriage to model Cindy Crawford. Despite media attention, he maintained a relatively private approach to his personal life. Professionally, he resisted being confined to predictable roles, instead exploring varied genres and characters. This creative restlessness kept him relevant, but it also highlighted his refusal to be fully absorbed by Hollywood's commercial expectations. By the end of the decade, he was both at the height of his fame and increasingly selective about the direction of his career. Activism, conviction, and industry friction. As his fame grew, Richard Gere became increasingly vocal about humanitarian and political issues, particularly his support for Tibet and the Dalai Lama. This activism distinguished him from many Hollywood peers but also created professional tension. In an industry deeply tied to global markets, his outspoken criticism of China's policies reportedly made some studios hesitant to cast him in major productions. While he gained respect among human rights advocates, his positions were seen by some executives as commercially risky. This tension highlighted the growing intersection between entertainment and global politics, where artistic careers could be influenced by geopolitical considerations. Gere, however, remained consistent in his beliefs, prioritizing conviction over potential career consequences. His public speeches and appearances often reflected a blend of spirituality and activism, reinforcing his image as a reflective and principled figure. While this earned admiration, it also contributed to a gradual shift in how Hollywood engaged with him. The friction was not dramatic or sudden, but incremental, shaping the opportunities available to him over time. His career increasingly reflected a balance between personal integrity and professional limitation, setting the stage for a quieter phase in his later years. Career shifts and the slow fade from center stage. In the 2000s, Richard Gere began transitioning away from major studio dominance into more selective and independent projects. Films like Arbitrage and Norman showcased his continued depth as an actor, often receiving strong critical praise. However, these roles did not achieve the same widespread visibility as his earlier work. Hollywood itself was evolving, with new franchises and younger stars dominating global attention. As a result, his presence in mainstream cinema gradually diminished. This shift was not marked by scandal or failure, but by a natural reorientation of the industry. He remained respected, but less central to blockbuster narratives. At the same time, he maintained his commitment to personal values and avoided roles that did not align with his sense of artistic integrity. This selective approach limited quantity but preserved quality in his later performances. While some interpreted this period as decline, it more accurately reflected a change in priorities. He moved from leading commercial cinema to contributing to more intimate storytelling. His career became less about visibility and more about meaning, marking a subtle but important evolution in his professional identity. Personal life, change, and renewal. The personal life of Richard Gere often unfolded under public scrutiny, particularly his marriages and relationships. His marriage to model Cindy Crawford in the 1990s drew significant media attention, though it eventually ended after several years. Later, his marriage to Carrie Lowell also became a prominent part of his public narrative, concluding after a lengthy separation and legal process. Despite these challenges, he maintained a dignified public demeanor, rarely engaging in public disputes or media conflicts. These experiences contributed to a broader perception of him as someone who navigated fame with restraint, even during personal difficulty. Over time, his life shifted toward stability and renewed focus, particularly in family and spiritual practice. Rather than redefining himself through publicity, he gradually moved toward a quieter existence. This period also reflected a deeper alignment with his long-standing interest in Buddhism and humanitarian work. Personal transitions did not redefine his public image dramatically, but they did reinforce the sense that his priorities were increasingly rooted outside Hollywood's traditional structures. His later life became less about public reinvention and more about private continuity and balance. Later years, spiritual grounding, and enduring legacy. In his later years, Richard Gere embraced a life centered on spirituality, family, and humanitarian engagement. His marriage to Alejandra Silva marked a new chapter, characterized by stability and shared activism. He continued to support global causes, particularly those aligned with human rights and Buddhist philosophy. While his presence in blockbuster cinema diminished, his legacy remained firmly intact through decades of influential performances. Films like Pretty Woman, An Officer and a Gentleman, and Primal Fear ensured his enduring place in cinematic history. Rather than fading into obscurity, he transitioned into a legacy figure whose work continues to be revisited by new generations. His career reflects a rare trajectory in Hollywood, sustained fame followed by deliberate withdrawal from its center. This was not a disappearance but a redefinition of success, where artistic contribution and personal meaning outweighed constant visibility. Today, his story is often viewed as one of balance between ambition and conviction, fame and introspection. The image of him as a romantic lead remains iconic, but equally significant is the life he built beyond that image, grounded in principles that extended far beyond the screen.